What's going on, everybody? Happy Monday, Ricker and Bond. Super cool episode. A lot of talk about finance, TV, a lot of Able. Really cool interview at the end. Maximo, currently with Grayscale. Gonna hear a lot about cool stuff, money, and VC. Bonjen.
Also, happy Martin Luther King Day. If you are at work or going to work, what are you doing? It's a holiday. All right, enjoy the episode.
Enjoy.
How come you don't want me, man? You know that new style you're looking for? If you want to keep going, I will keep going tonight. What's up? Hello. What's all this thing?
Can't beat the fucking Clippers. Y'all make me sick with this shit.
Well, listen to this.
Politicians are a lot like that. They should be changed frequently for the same reason.
Yo, shut the fuck up. I'm trying to listen to Ricker and Bond.
We find it now.
Protect your sanity.
I'm gonna win big. Choose not a life of imitation. Distant closer to the reservation. Keep on the pistol that you pay for. This pump the feeling that you stay for. In time I want to be your best friend. Eastside love is living on the west end. Knocked out before you better come to. Don't die, you know the truth is some do. Go write your message on the pavement. Burn so red, I wonder what the wave meant. White heat is screaming in the jungle.
Red Hot Chili Peppers, Bonjen.
I
Live in
love the
studio.
Red Hot Chili Peppers,
I don't really.
but not for like I'm kind of a poser. I only know them from Guitar Hero,
Frusciante had a cool album.
unfortunately.
Ricker and Bond, everybody. Happy Monday. Another episode. We got a cool guest, Maximo. How you doing, sir?
Good, guys. Thanks for having me.
No problemo.
No problem. Thanks everybody for listening. We got a really interesting interview today. Maximo of Grayscale, which is a crypto asset manager with $43.5 billion in assets.
Oh, that's true. Did it go up since then? Do you know the cap off top, Max?
I think it's around 39 since the market dropped a little bit, but it
really?
bounces between like 39 and 50 every few weeks.
Can you give people a brief intro of you, how you got to today, where you've been, what you think you're going to do?
Yeah, so I got into crypto. I used to be a big gamer when I was growing up, and my friend and I were always scheming on how to like World of Warcraft and things, right, without having to go ask our parents. And it was 8th grade summer. My friend comes to me. He's like, hey, there's this new thing called Bitcoin. We just set up our computers at night and then we can buy game time with it. So I'm like, all right. We did that every night. We'd set up our laptops. We would mine. I kind of forgot about that Bitcoin. I think I spent something like a Club Penguin membership for my sister and then, forgot about what it was for the next 5-ish years. So fast forward to like college, I'm working at a venture capital firm and I'm starting to hear about crypto again, and it's, familiar enough. So it piques my interest. And I hear that they invested in a couple crypto startups. So my goal there was, all right, cool. I'm into crypto. I think it's kind of cool. I'm going to scheme so that these people hire me. And so I started learning about crypto in my free time, chilling at the desk, talking those guys up. And I didn't end up working for them. I ended up doing my own little startup trying to do tickets as NFTs. But packed that up with COVID and then, left to do some tech consulting. Was still kind of interested in crypto the whole time, on Twitter, on whatever it is. My friends and I started running an indexer for the graph just as like a little side project for fun. And then
shout out the graph.
I saw Grayscale was hiring. I reached out and, here we are. So
Talk about the VC. What year did you work for a VC company?
2017 to 2019.
And that was kind of out of college, you said?
Yeah, so I was interning during college there. So it was cool. Got a lot of cool exposure. Got to meet a lot of people. Learned a lot of things. But yeah, it was a cool experience.
Thank you for mentioning Club Penguin, because in my opinion, that was peak internet.
What?
God, what a time. Sorry, go for it, Ricker.
I was going to say the beginning of my crypto stuff was also like not investment based. I was using Bitcoin allegedly for like sports gambling. I didn't have like an investment mindset. And so I was just doing like $20 bets of like 0.05 in like 2017. And then, you know, kind of same thing where I kind of like didn't think about it for a few years until like 21, 20. So
yeah,
you know.
I mean, a big reason I got into Bitcoin, or I got back into Bitcoin, was when we had to send the money over as crypto. It was either crypto or Western Union. Western Union charged crazy fees. Bitcoin was like $3. And so what I did is I bought Bitcoin about like $200-300. By the time I sent the money, Bitcoin had gone up like $50. So like, cool, I just paid $50, whatever. This is interesting. Had a little bit of Bitcoin left, and that's kind of, you know, what piqued my interest again too. So
also,
yeah, a lot of avenues to get into crypto.
It's either, you know, virtual 2008 worlds of penguins, sports gambling, or alleged activities.
Exactly.
What was the timeline after the? Were you into business going up to college? I mean, you kind of said you interned for a VC company. Was that kind of like a new thing, or were you kind of conditioned business through a kid in through high school and college, or not?
That was kind of a new thing. So I was studying biology. I wanted to be a dentist. And, you know, like junior year, I took organic chemistry. Once I took organic chemistry, I was like, listen, guys, I'm not sticking around for another 8 years. It's just not happening. So I finished the degree, but I just started taking like comp sci classes and spent most of my time focusing on that ticketing startup while working at the VC firm. So yeah, I just studied biology. Don't know how I ended up here, but you know, it actually, that's actually an interesting point though. Cause you know, we're hiring right now for a research position, and the whole industry is hiring for a ton of jobs, whether it's engineering related or not. And, you know, I think a lot of people trying to break into the space have, you know, some fears or whatever of not having the qualifications. And honestly, most people aren't qualified that try and come into crypto. It's very rare to find anyone with years of crypto experience. And let's be honest, most of the time that crypto experience isn't super legit, right? It's like, oh, I did something that this company did something related to crypto, right? It's kind of embellishment, which is, you know, typical in resumes. But the point is that like, you got to look beyond that. Like, so it took me a little bit to realize that me spending 4 years learning biology was actually super helpful for a research job, because as a biology student, you spend all day in lab creating data, running experiments, and then you get that data in an Excel sheet and you make charts, and you have to pull insights from those charts, and then you got to write reports on those charts, which is basically what we do as researchers, right? I look at the data available to me. I look at the trends, what's going on. I have a couple ideas. I test those out with some of the data, chart it, see what it looks like. And then, you know, I write some insights based on what I picked up. So, you know, it's just one example from biology, but yeah, I think really what it is just like interest in that sense, not to go too deep on the rabbit hole, I guess, but like for people trying to get into crypto, it's really just like, are you interested? Do you have like that curiosity? Are you like involved on Twitter or LinkedIn or whatever it is, right? But showing that like it's like actually like an interest or a passion, which I think was helpful for me just in most of the things that I tried to do.
Yeah, I think finance is very data science basically, and then you know coming from like studying like nature and like biology and like organisms and things. I think is probably an edge for a lot of people who are like getting into like finance. I think there's a lot of correlations between like nature cycles and money stuff.
Yeah. It's a similar thought process, like way of thinking.
Yeah. Can you talk about research in general? What's your like day to day at, what are you researching? What's kind of your beat at Grayscale?
Anything and everything. You know, my job at Grayscale is probably one of the coolest out there. You know, there's tons of knowledgeable people in the company. Like we have probably like the best lawyers and the best finance guys. Like honestly, these guys are just so smart. But like as the researcher at Grayscale, like I have the coolest job ever. I just get to research anything and everything I want. And I get to be like that crypto resource expert. Yeah, I mean, like my day to day, I'll wake up, I'll scroll through Twitter as everyone does, and read the newsletters that I get in my inbox, and then you know, it's I guess it's just a mix of like poking around our data sources, looking at some charts, seeing what's going on in the markets, and then I guess trying to be creative with that.
So do like teams come to you and be like, hey, explain this to us?
Yeah. So I'll do like crypto teach-ins or just like chat and learns every week or so, where people only will just like chit chat and talk about NFTs or Jack Dorsey and his crusade against VCs and anything that kind of comes up.
How would you explain the metaverse to a beginner, someone that's just like doesn't get it?
That's a tough one. Yeah. So the metaverse is basically just the metaverse is like where digital experiences take place. I think that's kind of a phrase we've been using a lot as a company. And what that means is just I'm a person in my daily life. I want to go do something, play video games, listen to music, something that involves a digital activity, like a digital medium, and I go use it. Right. So to that point, we have a metaverse right now. Like the metaverse exists. World of Warcraft is a metaverse in itself. Club Penguin was a metaverse. They just suck. Right. So this whole like concept of metaverse today that we hear about, like the popular term is more forward looking. It's like the digital worlds or games or experiences that we have, but in the future, and it's meant to mimic things that we have right now. So like if I show up to a meeting or I log into a game right now, those items I don't own. I have no say over them really. But maybe the idea is I log into my Zoom meeting or I log into my game and now I own that like sword or that shirt that I'm wearing, which makes it feel more realistic, right? Like I go to my meeting at Grayscale in person and I'm wearing my clothes. And if someone tries to steal my clothes, there's the government that enforces that. But in the digital world, that doesn't really exist. So I think the idea is just, integrating that. So when I go to these digital experiences, I own the stuff. And now the government that's enforcing that I own the stuff is the blockchain, right? So, long way to go. I guess it's kind of a longer answer too. But
that was good. That was engaging.
But yeah, it's a weird concept.
They've branded the internet as a thing, as a product. The internet that has been going on for a while, the sans digital ownership has been the metaverse. But in the future, AR, XR, VR, cool stuff. I can see it in front of me without glasses. Yeah.
So I think, what's his name? Sean Puri was a pretty famous guy on Twitter. He had a great little thread that was like, the metaverse isn't really anything. It's a time. It's time period. It's the next 10, 20 years when these digital experiences become a little more authentic in whatever way that manifests itself, right?
Yeah, true.
What are your thoughts on traditional finance in the future, going into more DeFi?
I think it'll become blended in the future. I think the only reason right now it's not, and it's so separated, is just regulation, regulatory reasons. Because there's a lot of great things that crypto has drawn from traditional finance in terms of like market structures, products, businesses, right? Like Uniswap, Compound, those are nothing new. Those are just rebuilt systems that we have centrally. But then the flip can also be said. So like a lot of these centralized companies can learn from these DeFi platforms, or actually just like benefit from them. How many employees could Coinbase, I guess, cut? And that sounds bad, but like how much more efficient, I guess, could Coinbase be if they had a lot of their protocols running? Like look at FTX versus Coinbase. FTX has I think a hybrid on-chain infrastructure that essentially allows them to have real-time data, real-time settlement, and provide data for free, right? And I think they have like 4 engineers in total. Like, and these dudes are just, I want like a documentary on these guys, because they must be the most insane engineers ever. Like they're putting out so much, building so much, creating so many good features so quickly. And it's absurd with like such a small team. And I think the point is that leveraging some of these like open networks, secure networks can actually help a lot. Like look at banks, right? Like Bitcoin versus banks. The only reason banks have so many employees and there's so many regulatory bodies around them and it's so cumbersome is because it's just a CSV in their database that anyone, like I can go get myself $1 billion if I wanted to at JP Morgan or at Chase, right? And so you have to have all these regulations around it to protect that. But with crypto, with decentralized open networks, like you can be much more efficient. And so that leaves room for employees or people, like to cut employees to go do something cool. There's this book by Jeremy Rifkin. He's like an economist. He says that human productivity peaked in 1997-ish, which is to say that like all these apps on the iPhones and whatever that come out for like productivity really don't help you much. And I think cryptos is a great way to like push us beyond that. I mean, you look at like Uniswap. Uniswap Labs is doing more volume than Coinbase sometimes. They have like 20 employees. I think it's just the nature of how efficient these systems can be. So it's really exciting.
Okay, I'm trying to understand this. So because Coinbase is kind of pretty centralized, that's why it has to have so many employees for like security reasons.
Yeah, I mean, all of their order books are just a database. It's probably in AWS, which means like so yeah. Okay, so the reason Coinbase can do like free trades, right, or offset ETH fees or not have to charge you ETH fees is because if I go buy ETH and sell ETH and swap it for Bitcoin or do whatever in the Coinbase app, none of that happens on chain. That just happens in their own database, which is free, and it makes sense to do it that way. But it's their own ledger, and so because of that, they have to have not only do they have to have employees around that, control systems, reporting, audits, but then they have to have other companies and other regulatory agencies and everything checking on that, right? Whereas Uniswap is just a development company that builds a protocol, and then the protocol deploys on chain, and they're done with it. The protocol on chain processes the data, deals with it with the employee or users and everything. But ultimately, like Uniswap Labs isn't processing that data or holding it. They're just deploying the code that understands that data. Right. So the Uniswap app doesn't feed data back to a database that the guys at Uniswap can just search, export, whatever. Right? That doesn't happen. Whereas at Coinbase, everything that we do dumps into an Excel sheet on their back end, more or less.
I see.
So we are really seeing the efficiency of the computer power kind of overtake
it's
systems.
It's like trustless data and immutable data, or immutability, which makes the data trustless, right? Which is a lot of big buzzwords, but
you don't have to have humans watching over things when you have code watching over things. Yeah,
it's like if we pooled money together, right, and then we just gave it all to John, like you and I are probably gonna want to like be like, yo, like John, like how's the money pile doing, right? And like those are checks that we got to do, as opposed to just having a system that we all trust that keeps track of every transaction we do, right? Which is Bitcoin.
There was an analogy that I think Gavin Wood had about where Web2 went wrong, or what it outdid itself for, was where, in the past you had little villages and humans had to have checks and balances. If you make like bad trades, then you get run out of town. So people are scared of doing bad trades. And then, you had institutions come in where they regulate those bad trades. And then you're supposed to trust those institutions. And you kind of see that next wave of, well, institutions are a little bit inefficient as we go into the future, and we can make things a lot more efficient if we build things with computer technology.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, then you like, if you then look at who's working at these institutions, whether it's like a government institution or like a Big Four audit company, any work done at a Big Four company, especially like auditors, is all done by like entry level 22 to 25-year-olds, right? Which are fresh out of college, but they're the analysts doing the work. And then on the flip side, it's just normal people at like the SEC, right? So like these institutions, you're supposed to trust them, but also if you look, it's just normal people.
Yeah.
So
a lot of people haven't seen. I think that's where maybe VC areas, or even financial areas of work and like study, once you kind of get behind the doors of what is supposed to be like, hey, these are big things that you don't understand, and you don't have to, because we got it, so everything is cool. It gives a little bit of peace for like the rest of society. And then when you kind of go behind and see like these are people just making things, even if it is a little tech based or hard, then you're like, hey, are you guys good? Can you guys do this?
Yeah. At least for like, I think for me, I had this impression that all of these, agencies, big name, whatever, were like super strict, had reasons for everything. Nah, you just kind of doing stuff to see if it works. That's it. which I think is why, like, you know, decentralized protocols are great, because you abstract all of the trust and ambiguity and you just write it in code. Like the simplest way, I don't know if you guys know how to code, but when I learned how to code, for me, it was like eye-opening, because it was like, okay, you essentially tell like a 3-year-old how to accomplish a task. Like, walk to the kitchen, open the cabinet, grab the paper towels, grab the spray bottle, spray, right? Like, you have to say every single step, but once you say every single step, it's good. Like, you just press play and keep doing it.
When did you start getting into code?
College. I finished my like biology degree a little bit early, so I just finished all my requirements with coding classes. There was only like 2 or 3. But yeah.
Go for it.
What are you coding now? What would you suggest for people if they didn't know how to code going in the future? What should they learn?
I would just say Python, because it's pretty easy. It's basically a calculator that understands words, and then it's fun. Like for me, I think what was super great was coming from like biology. I would spend 12 hours a day studying organic chemistry and making molecules, right? Which then I go home and I'm like, all right, that sucked. Or I go spend like 2 hours, 3 hours in class learning how to code, and then I can go home and make like a little calculator or something that might make my life easier. So,
you got any predictive things I can use for stocks or what?
No, unfortunately not. I wish.
Okay. All right.
I'm not much of a gambler, to be honest.
That's where probabilities come in.
Yeah, it's true. I'm not much of a trader lately. Everything's just so exciting and new that I just kind of like buying stuff, holding it for a year or two, and just seeing what happens. At this point, seeing things go to zero is sometimes just as exciting as seeing things go up. So
your chemistry in the brain still probably triggers something.
Yeah.
You gonna say something, Bob?
There's an imbalance there for sure.
I was going to ask your opinion on Bitcoin and what do you think the future of it is? I know that's kind of a broad question, but I guess to narrow it down, like, do you think it's money? Do you think it's property? Do you think it's just always going to exist? Do you think it's going to lose popularity? What do you think?
Oh man, this is gonna make some people mad. Probably. I got into it with some maxis on Twitter a little bit ago. I think Bitcoin is a digital commodity, and that's great. We need that. I think it's solved and proved a lot of things for the industry. My view is that the first blockchain, even the second blockchain, is not going to be the only blockchain that's ever used, right?
It's kind of silly to think that.
Yeah, and that was exactly what I said. And
there's a lot of things that need a lot of different uses.
Absolutely. And like Satoshi, right? He could be a god. He could also be a normal person. And my bet is that he was a normal person and he experimented based off of other people's previous experiments, and his experiment was successful, right? And we learned amazing things from that. We learned the importance of decentralization. We learned how to build trustless networks. We learned how to incentivize those networks. We learned, like the different nuances of technical architecture. So to that point, I think Bitcoin is a digital commodity, and I think that's great. And I think it's a great store of value. And I think, like relating it to gold, it's, people say like, what's the inherent value of Bitcoin versus gold? Well, it's that it's digital. Like 82% of Americans are making digital payments, right? Like there's 11 to 15% that don't even leave their house with a physical wallet anymore. And the point to that is just the world's becoming increasingly digital, whether it's payments, activities, school, and so we need digital stores of value. We need stores of value that are compatible with the internet and that mimic the similar properties as like physical items, which is ownership. So to that point, I think, Bitcoin's a commodity. I think it's great. I think it will always probably be, one or two in terms of the largest assets. But then that said, I think it has its limitations, right? Like the UTXO architecture makes it great for moving and tracking coins, but not necessarily like account balances. And so Ethereum was the next innovation off of that. It was cool. We've got this really great chain, decentralization, proof of work, whatever it is, worked really well, but it's missing, some capabilities here and here and here, right? And so that's what they did. And now Ethereum, proved decentralized network with smart contract architecture, let people build on top of that. But the cost of security and decentralization is expensive. So now we had Solana, Avalanche, Near, whatever, right? Phantom, and those all did super well because they iterated on that and said, okay, great. We've decentralization, incentivizing decentralization. We figured that out. We know how to do that. We know it works. Let's focus on the speed and cost, right? So, eventually Solana, Avalanche, and these guys will catch up on the decentralization. I just like to say that's a spectrum. But yeah, ultimately, I think the ecosystem is going to keep developing, and whether it's a layer 1, a layer 2, whatever we call them, ultimately, I just call them application layers. We'll keep having more based on the use cases. And the other thing too is there's 7-8 billion people on this earth. We can't have all that traffic on one chain. It's not only 8 billion people, it's hundreds of millions of IoT devices and whatever it is, right? Applications. So.
You brought up VC Jack Andreessen talking about kind of decentralization and VCs. Did you have an opinion on what they were talking about?
Yeah, who owns Web3? Who's the real owner?
I tend to agree that it's not as decentralized as people want it to be. It's
absolutely. Still... I think here's my hot take. I think proof of stake is only in existence because people are sick of talking about the energy debate. Because let's be honest here, proof of stake fundamentally incentivizes or favors the wealthy in that system, right? The amount of asset or token you hold directly influences your ability to earn more. And I think people understand that, people know it. I just think in large part, we're kind of glossing over that just because it makes it more investable for VCs or or just for users who don't really understand too much. So to that point, VCs do own a lot of Web3. I think I saw someone point out the nuance that a lot of VCs are funded by pensions and universities and stuff, which is true. Granted, those LPs don't have a voice in their investment direction. Yeah. But also the thing is, though, it's just necessary. It's a necessary evil. We need money somewhere. Like builders need to eat, right? And the reality is that most of these guys, can't just fund themselves for 2-3 years on a whim and spend all their money. And at least it's just tough to do so. So I think VCs are great. I think right now, VCs might have gone a little trigger happy with.
There's also a lot of ammo to be trigger happy with right now. That probably won't be in the future.
That too. There's just so much ammo right now that everyone's been getting millions and millions of dollars pretty easily. And it was great for the space. I think what we might see happen actually is in the next couple of years now, after all these projects have been overwhelmingly funded by VCs, is we'll see new projects come and say, all right, we'll sell off 20%, 30%, 50% of our tokens, just like a set supply. And then to the VCs, acknowledging that they do need to fundraise, but then making sure to split the rest of that token supply very evenly or as evenly as they can. However, go ahead.
Go ahead.
I'll just say, however that manifests itself, I think we could see a shift of teams focusing on, VC funding or allocation of supply to VCs, foundation funds, the diversification of funds in the foundation, team distribution, right? Like not having the entire team in the US or whatever. I think we'll start seeing a lot of those metrics maybe becoming a factor in protocols soon.
And that's what I was going to say. I think a lot of people tend to think in extremes of like this or that, where, tops and bottoms of cycles, but you probably see a midpoint somewhere of firms being like, okay, there's a lot of people wanting certain features and not wanting other features. They want us to do certain things, and the firms that will kind of bend to the will of the market, really.
Yeah, I think that's what would be the differentiator between like the sushi swap and the Uniswap, right? It's the same code base for the most part and the same function. But maybe the qualitative aspects of those protocols are what people like long term.
You see that with banks too. There's different banks that be like doing all the ESG stuff. They're like, all right, banks are banks, but we do like one thing. We plant trees when you buy gas. So if you like that, come to us.
Yeah, absolutely.
2 books you like and 2 websites you like.
Ooh, books.
Top 2 books.
Oh, damn, that's tough. I got 3. All right, here's 2. The Sovereign Individual. That one was recommended to me when I first started at Grayscale by the guy who hired me, Phil. Probably one of the smartest guys I've ever met. That book was great. It was written in like the 90s, so very forward looking, but almost spot on with this whole crypto revolution. And then the other book I like is The Third Industrial Revolution, the one by Jeremy Rifkin. I think that one's really good. Kind of talks about how like, the 1600s or whatever was industrialized by steam and railroads. And then we went to cars and coal. And now we're at this inflection point of, moving on to the next one, solar, renewables, and who knows. Right. So
I do think I've seen End of Work as well from him, which is,
he's a super smart guy. I really like his stuff. There's a shorter pod or like TED Talk version of the book too on YouTube somewhere, but
2 websites you would suggest to someone to research crypto or modes of thought, really.
Yeah.
And websites to help that thought process.
I'm trying to think of some that aren't paywalled.
Paywall too.
Paywall, I really like Delphi Digital. Delphi is probably like top tier research in this space. They're really good. Websites. Honestly, I gotta plug the Plain Text Capital website. Phil, that's his new fund. Their blog section, really, really good content, like really good newsletters, really good end of year commentary, especially for people that are kind of new in the space, just like curious, like what do I look into, what trends, what even happened. Honestly, probably one of the best newsletters out there.
Sick, sir. Appreciate your time. I really enjoyed it personally.
Same.
Yeah, I appreciate you guys having me. This was fun. Sorry for the delay.
All good. You got a parting sentence for anybody listening?
Oh man, a lot of pressure.
A parting sentence for your past self, perhaps.
Oh, that's a good one. I would just say like, have fun, chase your curiosity, and don't take things too seriously. Sure. I'm not necessarily one of these people, but my friend said something really, really, really interesting to me one day. He was like, this was like related to investing. He was like, I've been broke before. I don't care if I'm broke again. I can get back here, right? And I love that mentality. I'm a little too risk averse to feel that way. But I love that because you got to take risks to go big, and you gotta take, a leap of faith. And I think that's just a great mentality to have in life, right? Like go big or go home, and if you fail, that's okay. So
wonderful. Maximo, where can they find you if you want to be found?
Twitter, Matt Maximo 1. Pretty simple. I got a little penguin profile pic, so that's me.
Awesome, sir. Appreciate it again.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was good talking to you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good one.
You too.